So I think we are all in agreement that She-Hulk was the most viral and the most evident example of the decline of the MCU, because up until that point you still had many people saying, hey, a few bad projects doesn't mean the whole franchise is failing, and I mean, it was only 6 or so months since the release of No Way Home, which was a fantastic movie that most fans loved, but the quality decline in She-Hulk was so evident that it led to the widespread acceptance that the MCU was in a bad way, and was no longer the movie cinema powerhouse that it was just a few years before. And that She-Hulk backlash has openly continued for the last 2 years, because it has now been over 2 years since the series came out, yet every week there seems to be more reports regarding the show and more people referencing just how bad it was. And due to this criticism continuing, the She-Hulk actress herself, Tatiana Maslany, has openly mocked the MCU fans who criticize her character. And she didn't just reference the fans, but also the content creators who have accused the show and the character of She-Hulk of fulfilling a quote-unquote woke agenda, with the loudest voices of that fanbase being people like the Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic.
Or push the message.
And she chose to mock these creators and critics by saying the following: I also wish I'd just sit down and stop pushing my feminist agenda and just realize that Deadpool and Wolverine made a lot of money and She-Hulk only made $3. That's why they were getting rid of me, because I had this quote-unquote woke agenda, she sarcastically quipped. And now look, I understand that this is just tongue-in-cheek on her part, however to me this represents honestly a kind of disgusting disregard for the fanbase of Marvel, because these critics that she is mocking so openly, like the Critical Drinker, bring in millions of viewers and millions of fans of the MCU to their reviews, so clearly they should be taken seriously, because if each of the viewers of the Critical Drinker's review were to go and watch and enjoy the show of She-Hulk, then it could literally turn that series from a flop into a massive global hit. And I'm also not saying that her direct quote is necessarily disgusting, but it's more so the culture of Marvel actors, writers, and producers constantly mocking and straw-manning the argument of the fans that I do kind of find quite disgusting. And I'll touch on why that is after just a super quick word from today's sponsor. Have you heard that flavored air is quickly becoming the leading alternative to vaping or smoking? It's a whole new movement towards better habits led by the sponsor of today's video, Fume. For example, I used to be someone that drank a lot of energy drinks and I knew it wasn't the best thing for me, so I slowly worked my way down to just coffee. And that's the idea behind Fume. It's a flavored air device that's perfect for anyone trying to break away from certain bad habits. And the best part is it's nicotine-free, non-toxic, and completely guilt-free. And it's backed by doctors in the US. And another perk that you guys can see is that there are plenty of delicious flavors, with my personal favorite being crisp mint. And so this holiday season, why not give the gift of better habits with Fume? Head to tryfume.com/JesseGrant and use code JesseGrant, all capitals, to get a free Fume topper when you order a journey pack. And if you're lucky, you could even win one of Fume's limited edition gold-plated devices this holiday season. And so once again, go to tryfume.com/JesseGrant, all capitals. But without further ado, let's get back to the video. And so why I call this disgusting is because whenever Marvel actors, writers, or producers acknowledge the negative criticism of one of their shows, it's always in this way where they bunch the entire negative criticism together as being fueled by bigotry or toxic behavior. And they refuse to acknowledge the criticism that is valid and actually makes sense. Because seriously, I can't think of one time where they have brought up negative criticism and actually taken it seriously. They always disregard it as something that's beneath them or just not worth their time. But when these fans are spending their own hard-earned money to watch your movie, and when your movies make $1 billion in profit, it is because of these people. So therefore, if you're making billions of dollars off these people, you should maybe take their opinions seriously even when they are negative. And look, I do acknowledge that there are some wackos out there who just hate something because it has a woman or is diverse, but that was never the main complaint against She-Hulk. The major complaints were things like her not having a serious character arc or a hero's journey, and when you are a superhero, you should probably have a hero's journey, and I mean, Nerdrotic even openly said that he loves the character of She-Hulk from the comics.
And yes, it's true. She-Hulk is one of my favorite Marvel characters. I argued that she should have been introduced a long time ago, and it's also true that She-Hulk is the worst thing Disney Marvel has produced.
And so all they had to do was follow that example of She-Hulk's hero journey, and all these quote-unquote toxic fans would have loved the series. Then another major complaint was the bad CGI, the atrocious cringeworthy jokes, and then they also try and claim that hating the quote-unquote strong female character trope means that they are sexist, when there are literally multiple A-list female actors out there that have also said how the strong female character is boring, uninspired, and also kind of demeaning to women.
Like I've been reading scripts, it's like they love describing women as like badass, strong, like, and they're always like coming into a room and like they know everything, and it's like, oh, that's a strong woman. It's like, I don't want to watch that. I'm not like that. Like, I love complicated women, and I want to play evil women, and that messiness is like, that's what I feel like I try to bring that into Catherine, because she's not always right all the time.
Also, when you're watching a project, you want to feel like the characters are representatives that you're seeing of yourself on screen are relatable or attainable. And sometimes when you're constantly walking and there's cars blowing up in the background and things like that, it's cool and it's awesome. It looks beautiful, but I don't know anything about her. So it's hard to develop some sort of admiration or connection with women when they're written very two-dimensional and don't really give you enough.
To be a strong woman, you have to be this. To be, it's like, again, putting us into a box again.
And it also doesn't mean that us as a fan base don't want to see strong women on screen. I mean, hello, we all loved Black Widow, we all love movies like Kill Bill, but it more so means that we don't want to see the strong female character trope, because there is most definitely a difference between a strong woman and a strong female character, and I think we all know what that difference is. And also, if She-Hulk does get written well in her next projects, which I'm guessing will be a movie that she guest stars in, then these very critics that openly mocked She-Hulk will then turn around and say that the character was better, and that the character was actually good in that movie. And how do I know that they'll do that? Because these very critics acknowledge that Miss Marvel was good in the Marvels movie, which was most definitely a bad movie that they were all in agreement was a terrible film, yet they still acknowledge that Miss Marvel was done well.
Kamala Khan is mostly pretty likeable throughout the film, and I think a lot of that comes down to Iman Vellani's performance. You can tell she's having a lot of fun and she's excited just to be there.
They also have openly acknowledged when Marvel movies succeed and are actually good films, they're not always calling every single Marvel project bad, they're just saying when they're bad and also saying when they're good. And so if there are more bad projects to good projects, then that's obviously a problem for Marvel to fix, and not something for the fan base to fix. And then on that note, if it's Marvel's objective to make every movie and show a massive success, which I'm guessing it is, then they should really start to build a culture of taking the fans' negative opinions seriously, because it's not an accident that the two most successful Marvel movies of the last 5 years were made by people who openly talked about how they wanted to serve the fans and do right by them. I mean, Tom Holland has openly talked about how he turned down a few script pitches for Spider-Man 4 because it just wasn't right and the fan base wouldn't like it. That means that he takes fan criticism seriously and doesn't think that anyone who's going to hate a project is just toxic. He honestly thinks that they are valid in their opinion and he wants to give them something that they enjoy. And then you also have Ryan Reynolds, who voiced something very similar when it came to Deadpool and Wolverine as well.
Life is hard for a lot of people out there, and it's been that way for a long time. And just for people to walk out of that movie theater feeling like they just had the best 2 hours of their entire life, something that is like unexpectedly moving, but still retains all that audacity and and sort of wild subversion that you come to expect with this character in this world.
And so judging off the back of those two successes, and then looking at the shows and movies that flop, you can clearly tell the difference in the culture of going into that movie, and how the movies that succeed have a culture of trying to serve the fans, and then the shows and movies that don't succeed have more of a culture of ignoring the fans. And so come on Marvel, please do better, because with good writing, She-Hulk could actually be a character with potential. I mean, Tatiana Maslany was incredible in a show called Orphan Black, so I know that she can act, so just give her a good script and character development, and she'll definitely be a good character. But I'd also like to just ask Tatiana Maslany herself to please take the fan criticism more seriously, and yes, ignore the wild, wacko criticism, but take the measured and honest, well-intentioned criticism seriously, because the fans just want to watch good movies. But what are your thoughts on this? Let me know down below in the comments section. If you like the video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and as always,
good afternoon, good evening, and good night.